Okay, a frustrating reality for indie agencies. You're building brilliant campaign strategies, but you're stuck using third-party data that doesn't match your client's goals. Wasted spend in campaigns that miss the mark. Our consumer intelligence and data partner, Big Village, solves this. They give independent agencies enterprise-level audience intelligence, precise targeting, and real measurement without the enterprise complexity or cost. One agency using their platform saw 40 to 50% more accurate targeting and 25% better budget efficiency. It's the difference between close enough and exactly right. Ready to stop settling? Check out getbigvillage.com. It is Monday, and my camera is looking at the edge of the green screen. I got a cap here. I'm doing a little flat cap backwards. I got it from my son, and it was too small for his big melon head. So I get it, which is great. I've never had my grandfather on my mom's side, Italian side, he wore flat caps all the time. He looked great in them. Complaints to the usual address. I don't know how great I look in this, but yeah, we'll see. How's everybody doing? It is Monday, February 23rd. Doug Zanger. Hope you all had a good weekend. To those of you on the East Coast, stay safe. Work from home. Maybe don't work at all. Make it a snow day. Yeah. We finally got snow out here in Oregon. It's up on the mountain, so there may be a hooky day coming up fairly soon. But to those of you out east, please stay safe. So, indie agency news. Our brief is simple. Build the home for independent agencies. Our mission, serve independent agencies and the brilliant people behind them. Our goal is more visibility for indies and more choice for marketers. A couple things coming up. Speaking of marketers, might help if I get the right thing. It's been a minute since I've done a live show. So let's talk about our leadership summit in Chicago, April 15th. It's brought to you by Arima. Building an unfair advantage for marketers. Very excited about this because we are doing the marketer-centric thingy thing. Great keynote coming up from Anthony Reeves, who has been around for a minute. He's the marketer at Kohler up in Wisconsin. He's going to come down from Wisconsin that day. And we got some great sessions coming up. And thank you to Arima for the presenting sponsorship. Blood, Sweat, and Tears on the break. Path Labs, session 4, where brands and agencies are placing their bets. And our show-off happy hour from Goodway Group. Thank you all so very, very much. And the thing about Show Off is all about showing off the work. Speaking of which, Indie Agency News Top 40 Classic. This is our award for all the work. 10 categories. First entry deadline is April 3rd. So you got a little bit of time. If you did enter the one show, Indies, show us proof. We'll give you 40% off your entries. If you are a member, 25% off. And you can see we got 10 categories. Top 4 go to the final round, and we will have the voting on that to get the top 40. The juries will be announced tomorrow or Wednesday. So we're getting that all last minute things buttoned up on that. So we are very excited. This is a very new, it's been revised, it's been revamped. A couple of years of experimentation. Thank you for those of you who participated. This is much better, and I give Katie Wally-Wiegert, one of the owners and partners of Indie Agency News, a tremendous amount of credit for getting us tightened up. So, very excited. We got a lot of other stuff coming up as well. But the topic for today, let's talk about a number that should make every agency pause. So, let's if you had to guess how many a percentage of how many CPG brands fail, it's about 90%. So in beverages, you've gone to your Sprouts, you go to your Whole Foods, you go to your local Safeway. It's Western, West Coast. Wegmans, you see a whole wall of beverages. It's only 3% ever reach 10 million in revenue. So BevNet is like the big one. And you see this pattern everywhere. So you got passionate founders, nice packaging, marketing budgets ready to go. But underneath this distribution strategy, it's just not working. The unit economics, that's beverage speak for you. They don't pencil. The positioning is off. And the easiest thing an agency can do is take the money and run. So we're bringing in Sydney Tomasello from Fortnight Collective. We're going to talk about the harder choice, the one where the agency tells the founder the actual truth before spending their budget. And this is why this conversation might be incredibly valuable and incredible for an indie agency to offer. And it's not simply beverages here. We'll talk a little. This is the framework because Sydney's had a tremendous amount of experience. Fortnight has a tremendous amount of experience. So, Sydney, let's talk a little bit about the deep roots in beverage and CPG. So, you've got Bragg, Mortal Kombucha, Soli, all kinds, and you're showing up to these events like Expo West and BevNet. So, when you're walking these floors and talking to founders, what patterns are you seeing keep repeating that tell you marketing is not the real problem and that these brands need to solve?
I'm going to come out the gate a little bit swinging, but if I'm going to
go.
A lot of these trade shows feel like museums filled with great products, but with no point of view. If I'm going to be honest, and hear me out. Everyone looks great. They're like decked out in swags. Everyone's trying to be vibey with their bucket hats or their coveralls, beautiful packaging. They try to have really rad booths. But then when you start to probe and question about like, why did you create this product? What is different? Nobody really has clear answers. And that kind of feels like the root problem is a lot of people are putting products out into the world as a reaction to some other product that was hot the year before. Probiotic soda is a perfect example. Poppy, Olipop, Crush. Now we have too many probiotic sodas to count. And so we're putting a million products out without actually solving a problem. And that is always going to lead to endless problems that marketing can't solve. I always say marketing is the outcome of great strategy, hopefully. But if marketing doesn't have strategy, it's probably not going to deliver the results or the ROI that you're looking for.
Yeah. And I had mentioned earlier in the setup here, it's like when you go into any supermarket, but especially if you're looking at more specialty markets like your Sprouts, like a Whole Foods, that seems like you look at it, it's completely overwhelming. And let's talk a little bit again about this industry research. So roughly 90% owning a restaurant might be actually better.
It might be the worst industry to enter.
Yeah. So 90% fail, around 90%. And then, so in beverage specifically, so Coca-Cola's own venturing and emerging brands team found that only 3% ever reached 10 million in revenue. So let's game out the scenario. So founder comes into an agency with a marketing budget, but fundamental issues in distribution, unit economics, positioning, the real cost. Let's talk about the real cost to both the founder and the agency of simply executing the brief without pushing back.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, it's expensive for everybody.
Oh, totally.
Everybody involved is going to suffer. Some clients, brands, beverage brands, CPG brands shouldn't even be consulting agencies based on where they are. If your distribution is a mess, your supply chain is a mess, your product is a mess, we do not want to market and cause more demand. That is just kind of a baseline, is we need to get kind of the in-house in order before we start increasing that demand that we ultimately can't supply. And so I think executing a brief when the fundamentals are broken should just be illegal on a lot of end. But I think in an era where agencies are kind of in scarcity because AOR is gone, clients are in scarcity because injection of funds is a lot harder these days. Just executing a brief that doesn't have the fundamentals in line is one, gonna waste time and energy and money of a client who doesn't have any of those things. And two, it's gonna just lead to an agency spinning. It's impossible to solve problems that marketing cannot fix, like things like your supply chain, like things like your product formulation is bad, things like you don't have distribution, things like no one knows what the hell you're selling or why it's important. And so I think a bad brief is never optimal. I think that bad brief is up to an agency to, one, articulate, can we fix this brief? And is the problem that the client is asking to solve something we can address or believe needs to be addressed? And if not, conversation needs to be had. Because I think it's also pretty fucked up, to be honest, when clients take on projects that they know their client doesn't need or shouldn't be spending their money on. Like, the right thing to do is to tell your client, hey, right now, go get your house in order. Once that's in order, come back to us.
Right.
It's going to save everyone time and money.
Well, and we're going to talk a little bit about what Fortnight does when a founder needs a little tough love. And I think not only for this category, but this is good for every agency to understand. The data is there. And then the other side of this, so, take out the product itself, like the things that you can really, really control would be product formulation, some of those things. Let's talk a little bit about distribution, because in the old radio days, we would work with some of these brands that they're looking for shelf space. They're looking for the distribution part of it is wild. Talk about where, and you've been in beverage for a very, very long time. Talk a little bit about where founders misunderstand or completely undershoot the importance of distribution and how it really works.
Well, I'm going to be honest, if I am not a distribution specialist, but I think key is so many people are trying to just get their product in as many places as possible without actually first getting demand. I think that's a constant battle. It's okay, we're going to put our product everywhere, but nobody knows what our product is. Nobody's asking for our product. We're putting it in places where it's not needed, where there's 10 other solutions that are identical. I think one is first building demand and then building distribution, or kind of being strategic about your distribution, because what works for one brand doesn't work for another. We worked with one client who completely avoided traditional retail. When you have slotting fees and brokers and all these things, it becomes an absolute nightmare. Instead, he went all into fitness, went into Soul Cycles, into berries, into equinoxes, just reevaluating his distribution channel where he could generate authentic demand versus hoping everyone comes. And I think the alternative side of this is when people put a ton of money into paid or media or marketing in any sort, and they have no distribution. So we're generating a ton of demand, and there's nothing worse than someone wanting your product and not being able to find it. I think it's having enough of a foresight to understand when is the right time and the right place to actually activate in a way that we can do successfully.
Right. I like the demand. We're only available in Moline Davenport, so...
Yeah, and again, maybe you need to spend a bunch on paid meta, maybe not. Maybe you do some targeting. You just activate. I think it's like getting a little bit thrifty with how you figure out how to generate that demand.
And you know what? I was in the wine business these many years ago. And when I say wine business, I mean tasting room. And what a fun job that was. But we'd go out, and the sampling still matters a lot.
Sampling is everything. But it's
why do people forget that?
I think because it's a lot of work. I think I always felt like the Amazon effect that we're living in right now. Everyone wants things faster, cheaper, better tomorrow. And the reality is when everyone is operating that way, it's just a big, noisy mess of a system versus if you can activate sampling on premise with ambassador teams, well, my God, are you going to have success of building genuine affinity and relationships with people who are then going to go advocate for you. So I'm completely with you that I love sampling. I love activation. I love on-premise. I just think a lot of people want to avoid it because it takes a little bit more effort and diligence.
Yeah, but the long-term benefits of that are...
the numbers. You put the numbers out there. We want to succeed. We want to be that 1%. You kind of got to shoot a different strategy. But I think a lot of people don't like that answer.
I know. Well, let's get to tough love then.
Yeah.
So when Fortnight decides that a founder needs the tough love. And again, to be very clear, this could be in the beverage business. It could be any category. So let's talk about tough love. Yeah. So business models, maybe it's distribution, any of it. What does that conversation look like? And how do you deliver strategic honesty in a way that keeps the relationship intact and moves the business forward? Because that's always a little bit of a balancing act.
Yeah. I mean, even if we step back, if any agency wants to be successful, you need enduring relationships. There's nothing worse than having a client come in and leave and having to get another client and then they leave and having another client come in and leave. If you want to build that enduring relationship in an agency with your clients, it's kind of the same as how you build any relationship outside of the work world. It's starting with that foundation of respect, trust, and honesty. If you don't have that, you can't really do the tough love because whoever you're giving tough love to isn't going to receive it well. And so I think it always starts first by earning the right to deliver tough love, not just coming in swinging opinions. It kind of is about coming in listening, trying to understand and not just understand their brand realities, but their business and political realities. I mean, nobody likes the P word, but in CPG and beverage, I think in any brand, understanding the internal dynamics is so important in order to create a successful outcome. And so for us, we always start by just genuinely getting to know the people that we're working with. What are the challenges they're up against? Who do they report to? At the end of the day, sure, we might need to make them happy, but ultimately they need to make their boss happy. What hasn't worked in the past? What's happening with their margins? What's happening with distribution realities? What are their growth goals? I think understanding what's keeping them up at night, all of these business questions are then going to allow us to solve those brand questions. And so for us, that tough love just begins with honesty, respect, listening, so we can understand what we're up against. So then say we get a brief that we're like, oh God, we heard one thing, this brief is saying another thing. We then hopefully have built the relationship and the respect to deliver honesty that is needed to actually result in a successful outcome. The goal for us isn't to be right. The goal is to build something that benefits everybody.
Founders, by their very nature, and I'm not saying present company included here, but I might be, we're very passionate about what we're building because there is a belief system. How do you get around perhaps a level of inflexibility? Because passion really matters. That's why a founder starts the business in the first place.
Yeah.
How do you manage that? And then how do you break through? And then do you determine this is a lost cause? It's time for us to walk.
I mean, that's where I was going to say is you don't always break through. Let's just be honest. I think we're all humans. We're really stubborn, especially when you are a founder and you've kind of put your life on the line, your financials on the line, you are fully bought into this. You're going to believe one way and you want everyone else to believe that around you. And sometimes that way is right. And sometimes that way is crystal clear, but sometimes that way is continuing to dig you into a deeper and deeper hole. But at the end of the day, this isn't the sexy way to say it, but it's like trying to drag a addict to rehab who doesn't believe they have a problem, and I think that we can determine pretty early on. For us, we won't work with people where we look and we're like, oh God, this person is going to be a nightmare to work with. And they have no respect for our craft and don't want our opinion because we know it's going to be a lost cause for both of us. If you just want someone to execute and be a pair of hands for you, we're not the agency for you. There are so many agencies that will do that. We're not going to sign up for that because we've all done that and we've been there before and we know it doesn't work. And so I think in best case scenarios, you have a really, really passionate founder. And again, you take the time to get to know their struggles, the things that keep them up at night, the things that they want to accomplish, their dreams. And then hopefully you can help them understand how you are the right person to help them achieve those dreams or solve those problems. But I mean, sometimes you just got to cut it off and say, oh God, this is not something I want to interact with. It's just the reality is I'm not going to talk to a wall,
Yeah. You're sitting back there going,
It sucks. I mean, there's nothing worse than being like, oh my God, this is a kick-ass product and a really killer business. But then you have someone who has a one state of mind. I think the best relationships, it's that back and forth. I mean, I love a kind of ripe, maybe little uncomfortable conversation of where we're going back and forth, pushing one another. But that takes two people willing to have that conversation.
Well, let's take that one step further. for independent agencies that want to build this kind of strategic honesty into their process, how do you structure the discovery process to surface the deeper business issues before you move to the next steps? What specific questions should agencies be asking that maybe most skip?
Yeah. I mean, I'll probably sound repetitive at this
That's
stage, but
fine.
business, ask the business questions. Like I think in creative agency world, we can get so caught in what is the task that we're up against. Building a creative campaign, rebranding a company, helping build audience segmentation. Like we get so caught in that and we blur out everything else. And so I think if discovery doesn't start with understanding the business, it's not discovery, because you cannot solve the creative, fun brand problems if you don't understand the business problems. Because at the end of the day, that CFO is never going to sign off on your scope of work if they don't believe you're going to generate some level of ROI. And so I think the best discovery starts off with asking those business questions that then can help us understand the brand questions that we're trying to articulate. And also understanding the uncomfortable things, like what has gone wrong in past agency relationships. I think a lot of brands have worked with so many agencies, and you need to understand what's worked and what hasn't in order to kind of identify the opportunities for your agency to succeed. But also, what are those like red flags that they've continuously raised that you want to avoid? You need to understand within their audience and their core targeting, who buys twice and why. Like, sure, we don't want to just say moms in Pennsylvania who value health and wellness are our biggest buyers. Why? Why are they your biggest buyers? So then we can continue to fuel and feed them. We need to understand, what is the long-term business goal? Are you just looking to be acquired by a big giant, or are you looking to hold on to this business for long-term? Those are two different growth model strategies that are going to impact the creative that you put out into the world. I think we talked a lot about demand here. Where is demand coming from? Is it coming from that core audience that you've outlined, or is there a totally different audience that's actually building that demand? Understanding where your demand is going to come from is going to help you understand how to supply that demand.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe, what are you avoiding? Like, what is that hard? We talked about on premise. We talked about sampling. Is that something you're avoiding, and why? Let's talk about it. Let's understand your business realities so we can build a creative solution that you can actually act upon. I think if you don't understand the business model, you're kind of just decorating. I know nobody likes to hear that, but it's like, cool, we're going to build another pretty sexy brand or creative solution, and it doesn't do anything. Just costs a ton of money. And then you also create a founder or a team that doesn't believe in creative or agency. Like, that just feeds a toxic. Yeah. And, I think we've got to work together. So I think if you can have those hard conversations early on, that creative is so much more likely to perform. So that was a very long-winded answer.
No, it's all right. We appreciate many TED Talks here at Indie Agency News. I was going to ask this question, but now we've covered so much. It would be additive. So I'd like to talk about the ink. Let's talk about your ink. So yeah. Explain your ink. Explain your tattoos.
Oh, I've got a bunch of tattoos.
Yeah. That's the one I was going to start with.
This is just a tiger. I mean, I'm
probably just a tiger.
Probably that disruptive force in any organization, if I'm going to be honest. And I've been lucky for people who welcome that disruption. And then I've also faced those who really don't like it. I'm not the person you hire if you want to be told what you want to hear. I'm probably the person you hire if you want someone who's going to tell you what you need to hear and bring an opinion to the table. So I don't know. It's just kind of like my little reminder to keep the tiger alive in me and not let it be tamed. I think that's what makes me me. And
so funny.
I have a bunch of other tats, but it's more of just expression and kind of honoring the path that I choose on. It's so much easier to kind of blend in and say yes and be the person that kind of keeps the peace. But I don't believe that results in better outcomes for anyone. I think the kindest thing you can do is be honest with an open.
Well, no, here's what we tell people too, is that we're gonna be direct, but we're gonna be really kind. Like, and so I wonder if that's like because family's from New Jersey, digging out in New Jersey, and it's very interesting to me because being able to be direct but kind it's a very interesting balance.
It's also how I think we sometimes get so There's nothing I hate more than when you're in an agency and they're like, oh, this is only a $20,000 project. It's fine. And I'm like, no, but it's $20,000 is all they have. Like,
yeah.
People's entire life is on the line. They have put their house up in order to fuel this business.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the right thing to do to take this brief and execute it when all of us internally are like, oh God, this is not the right problem that they should be solving, or they're not asking the right questions. That is not okay. When we watch all of these businesses dying and basically going under and people filing bankruptcy left and right, I'm sorry, that does raise the stakes. That does mean that we have got to bring radical honesty in order to improve the success metrics. When only 1% is succeeding, we got to reevaluate what we're doing. And so I think that honesty it's about leaving everyone better. It doesn't do us any good if we say yes and we pander you and we tell you how great you are and how beautiful your brief is and go execute it. And then we just wasted $20,000 and achieved nothing.
Right.
I think that's the uncomfortable truth is in so many of these small companies, you already are up against so many challenges. Most of the time there's one marketing person doing social marketing, brand marketing, performance marketing. You have all these realities. So I think when someone can initially hear tough love, they're like, oh God, no, I don't need any more tough love. I need someone to make my life easier. The reality is that tough love in the beginning is going to make your life easier in the long term. It's pick your hard. You can pick the easy up front and then deal with the hard down in the long term, or you can pick the hard up front and deal with the easy in the long term. I think it's just what you kind of have the appetite for.
Yeah. We're doing a show tomorrow, Good Day Advertising. We do it from time to time. It'll become more of a consistent thing. But the topic for the show tomorrow is your first paying project, not your first job in advertising or marketing. Your first paid project. What was your first paid project? Do you remember? And I'll give you the context. I started in this business by selling a radio script for $35.
My first paid project, not in this industry, was in high school. I was making.
Oh, wait, no, in this industry, not.
In this industry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh God. I was at a branding agency, so it was building brands from the ground up.
What was your first project?
I think it was a brand from this like really badass founder, Courtney. I can't think of what her last name is, but she had started this like kelp jerky brand called Akua. Well, we had named it Akua, and she was just a total badass and brilliant and very sustainably minded and passionate beyond anyone's desire. At the end of the day, a really passionate founder is hard, but I'll choose passion and opinion any day.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Sid, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to catch up with you. More to come. We'll see you in Boulder and Denver soon.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you backstage. Don't hang up. It's not a Zoom call.
Cool.
All right, everybody. I love talking to I love talking to all of our members. Fortnight's kind of one of the OG members, so we got a little special place in our heart for our first. I was looking at our first 10 members this weekend. We're over 350 now, so thank you to everybody for believing in this mission. A reminder, Chicago Summit, April 15th. Top 40 Classic, open for entries. We'll be announcing the jury here very soon. And we have scads of other events coming up and other stuff coming up. On behalf of everybody at Indie Agency News, I'm Doug Zanger. We'll see you tomorrow for Good Day Advertising. Look at us being professional with a show signature now.